My name is Naomi Parker, and I'm 18 years old. The story I'm about to tell you begins not with celebration, but with betrayal. Because the day I should have been crying tears of joy, the day I should have been running into the kitchen waving my college acceptance letter, was instead the day I learned my sister had been keeping secrets that nearly cost me my future. It started on a gray March afternoon. I was looking for my phone charger of all things. My sister Samantha had a bad habit of borrowing things without asking, and more often than not my stuff ended up in her room. Her door was half open, the faint hum of music drifting out. She wasn't home, at least not yet. I stepped inside quickly, scanning the mess of clothes, makeup palettes, and half-empty coffee cups on her dresser. I found my charger shoved under a pile of notebooks. I was about to leave when something caught my eye. A large white envelope tucked halfway under her jewelry box. It wasn't hers. My name was printed in bold black letters across the front. Naomi Parker. My stomach tightened. I picked it up, my hands trembling. The envelope had the crest of Greenridge University on the corner, the school I'd been waiting months to hear from. The school I'd dreamed about since sophomore year. The envelope had already been opened. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Slowly, I slid the letter out, the words blurring as my eyes filled with tears. Congratulations, Naomi Parker. We are pleased to offer you admission to the class of 20. My heart soared and shattered in the same instant. I'd been accepted. My dream had come true. But Samantha had known before I did. And she'd hidden it. The house felt suddenly too quiet, the walls pressing in on me. My pulse thundered in my ears as I clutched the letter, anger rising like fire. Why would she do this? I didn't have long to wonder. A car pulled into the driveway, headlights flashing across the curtains. Seconds later I heard the front door slam. Samantha's voice floated down the hall. Naomi. You home? I stood frozen in her room, the letter crumpled in my hand. She walked in a moment later, dropping her bag on the floor. When her eyes landed on me, then on the letter, her face drained of color. What are you doing? She snapped, her voice sharp, defensive. What am I doing? I shouted, my voice trembling. What are you doing, Sam? You hid this. My acceptance letter. My future. You opened it and you kept it from me. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked caught, cornered, like a child with her hand in the cookie jar. But instead of apologizing, her expression hardened. You weren't supposed to find that yet, she muttered. My chest heaved. What do you mean I wasn't supposed to find it? It's mine. This is my life, Samantha. She crossed her arms, her chin tilting defiantly. I had to, Naomi. You don't get it. You can't just leave. Not yet. Her words sliced through me, sharp and cold. What are you talking about? I whispered. Her eyes flashed. You think you're better than me, don't you? With your perfect grades, your fancy acceptance letters. Everyone looks at you like you're the future. And what does that make me? Nothing. If you go, if you leave, I'm the one who's left here. Alone. The failure. Tears burned my eyes. So you thought you could just, what? Keep me here. Hide this and hope I'd give up. That's not love, Sam. That's cruel. Her lips curled into a smirk that chilled me. Call it whatever you want. But you're not going anywhere. I stared at her, the letter trembling in my hands, my world tilting on its axis. She had stolen my joy. She had stolen my moment. And she was proud of it. For the first time in my life, I saw my sister not as family, but as an enemy. And in that moment I made a silent vow. I would not let her trap me here. But I had no idea just how far she'd go to keep me from leaving, or how far I'd have to go to show everyone what she'd done. Before we move on, take a second to hit subscribe and drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you think so far. Samantha wasn't always the villain in my story. For most of my childhood she was my best friend, my protector, my loud, confident older sister who knew how to make me laugh when I was scared of thunderstorms and who braided my hair before school when Mom was running late. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. And by the time I held that college acceptance letter in my hands, I realized those shifts had been happening for years, quiet cracks that grew into canyons. Growing up, Samantha and I shared a room. We told each other secrets under the covers, whispered about crushes, and made up silly songs until Mom yelled at us to go to sleep. She was 3 years older, which meant she always felt like she was 3 steps ahead. I looked up to her. I wanted to be like her. When she won her middle school spelling bee, I clapped the loudest in the crowd. When she got her learner's permit, I begged to sit in the passenger seat on her practice drives. She was bold and fearless, while I was quieter, the one with my nose in books. But then high school came. And that's when the balance changed. I still remember the first real crack between us. I was a freshman, nervous about everything, when one of my teachers praised me in front of the class. "Naomi Parker," he said, smiling, "you have the sharpest essays I've seen from a 9th grader in years." It was a small comment, but word got around. By dinner, my parents were beaming. "Naomi, that's wonderful," Mom said. "You've always had such a gift with words." I smiled, but I noticed Samantha's silence. She stabbed at her food, her jaw tight. Later that night, she cornered me in our room. "You think you're so smart now, huh? Teacher's pet." I blinked at her, confused. "What?" "No, I didn't." "Just wait," she muttered. "You'll screw up like everyone else." It was the first time I saw bitterness in her eyes when she looked at me. As the years went on, the pattern grew clearer. When I made the honor roll, she rolled her eyes and said, "Grades aren't everything." When I won a regional essay contest, she laughed and told her friends, "Don't worry, it's not like it was real competition." And when I started talking about college, about Greenridge, the school that had captured my imagination with its tree-lined campus and creative writing program, she dismissed it outright. "Good luck getting in," she said one night, sprawled on the couch scrolling through her phone. "They don't take kids like us." "Kids like us?" Yes. I shrugged. "Average kids. And before you argue, you're not as special as you think." Her words cut deeper than I let her see. Looking back, I realized Samantha's sabotage started small. One night I left my homework folder on the kitchen table. The next morning it was gone. I searched everywhere until I found it shoved under the couch, pages crumpled. "Must have fallen," Samantha said, smirking. When I tried to practice for a debate competition, she mocked me, repeating my lines in a silly voice until I snapped and stormed off. "Just trying to help you loosen up," she said sweetly when Mom asked why I was upset. And whenever I mentioned my dreams, she was quick to remind me of reality. "Most people don't get out of this town, Naomi. Don't set yourself up for disappointment." It was constant, like drops of water carving away at stone. By my junior year, the gap between us had widened. I had a plan, goals, a stack of college brochures hidden in my desk drawer. Samantha didn't. She drifted after high school, picking up odd jobs, dropping them just as quickly. Family gatherings became a minefield. Relatives would clap me on the back asking, "So where are you applying, Naomi?" Then they'd glance at Samantha and ask carefully, "And what about you, hon?" She'd shrug, make a joke, change the subject. But later, in the car ride home, she'd glare at me. "Do you like making me look bad? Is that your thing now?" "No," I'd insist, desperate. "I never said anything." "Yeah," she'd snap. "You don't have to. You just exist. And it's enough." Those words haunted me. After finding that acceptance letter in her room, all those memories came flooding back. The stolen homework, the mocking, the digs about kids like us. She'd been trying to hold me back for years. And now she'd crossed the line from petty jealousy to outright sabotage. I sat on my bed that night, the letter spread out in front of me, my hands trembling as I traced the words "Congratulations, Naomi Parker." And for the first time, I allowed myself to see the truth. Samantha never wanted me to succeed, because my success reminded her of her own failures. I thought back to her words in that heated confrontation. "You're not going anywhere." And suddenly, I realized this wasn't just about a letter. This was about control. Samantha had always needed me small, trapped, stuck beside her. And she wasn't going to let me go without a fight. The question was, how far would she go? Hang on, before I tell you what happened next, make sure you've subscribed and left your thoughts in the comments. This part gets intense. I barely slept after finding the letter. I kept waking up in the night, the words blurring in my mind. Congratulations, Naomi Parker. Only to be replaced with Samantha's voice. You're not going anywhere. By morning, my joy had curdled into anger. I couldn't let it sit. I needed to confront her. I found her in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone while pouring cereal. She looked up, calm as ever, like nothing had happened. I slammed the acceptance letter down on the counter. Explain this. Her eyes flicked to the paper, then back to me. No guilt, no panic, just a long, slow sigh. I told you, she said flatly. I had to. Had to. My voice cracked with disbelief. You stole my letter, Sam. You took the one thing I've been waiting for all year. And you hid it like it didn't matter. That's not something you had to do. That's something cruel people do. Her jaw tightened, but her voice was steady. You don't get it, Naomi. If you go, what happens to me? I stared at her. What happens to you? This isn't about you. This is about my future. She slammed her spoon into the bowl, milk splashing. Exactly. It's always about you. Naomi the smart one. Naomi the golden girl. Naomi with the future. What do I have, huh? What do I get to be? The screw-up. The one left behind while everyone gushes over you. Her words echoed in the small kitchen, louder than any shout. I shook my head, my chest heaving. Sam, that's not true. Nobody thinks you're a screw-up. Don't lie to me, she snapped, her eyes blazing. I hear them. Mom, Dad, Aunt Linda, all of them. Naomi's going places. Naomi's so mature. Naomi will make something of herself. And me. I'm just Samantha. The one who couldn't hack college, who can't keep a job, who's still living at home. You think I don't see the way they look at me? Her voice cracked, but her expression hardened again, her anger swallowing whatever pain had slipped through. That's why I did it, she said coldly. Because if you leave, it's over for me. You'll be the star. And I'll be nothing. The words hit harder than any slap. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Sam, you're my sister. I've always looked up to you. Do you really think I want to leave you behind? This isn't about competing. It's about me chasing something I've worked for. You can't take that from me just because you're scared. She shook her head, her lips curling into a bitter smile. Can't I? I already did. Her words were like ice water pouring over me. The days that followed were unbearable. Samantha avoided me when she could, but when she didn't, she made sure I felt the weight of her power. When Mom asked if the mail had come, Samantha answered quickly. Nothing important today. Then she glanced at me with a smirk, daring me to speak. When I tried to fill out scholarship applications on the family computer, I came back from the bathroom to find my draft deleted. Oops, she said sweetly. Must have hit the wrong button. It wasn't just sabotage. It was war. One evening, I overheard her on the phone in her room. Her voice was low, hushed, but the words carried through the thin walls. She won't leave, she whispered. I'll make sure of it. If I have to burn every acceptance letter she gets, I will. My heart stopped. I stood frozen in the hallway, my hands trembling, my breath shallow. She meant it. This wasn't just jealousy. This wasn't just insecurity. She was determined to ruin my future if that's what it took to keep me trapped. And in that moment something inside me broke. I felt small, powerless, cornered in my own home. The joy of my acceptance had been stolen. The dream I'd clung to for years now felt like a fragile thing Samantha could crush at any moment. For the first time, I wondered if she'd win. I closed my bedroom door quietly, leaning against it as tears spilled down my cheeks. My sister, the girl who used to braid my hair, who used to protect me from nightmares, was now my nightmare. And if I didn't do something, she'd destroy everything I'd worked for. Before we go any further, click subscribe and let me know in the comments. What would you have done in my shoes? After that night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with every word I'd overheard. Burn every acceptance letter. My sister, my own blood, was ready to torch my future if it meant keeping me trapped. Felt broken, yes. But in that brokenness, something else stirred. A quiet, steady flame I hadn't felt before. I wasn't going to let her win. For days I kept my head down, pretending to shrink. I didn't mention the acceptance letter. I didn't confront her again. If anything, I let her think she had me. But inside I was working. I had learned one thing from years of being Samantha's little sister. She thrived on spectacle. She wanted control in front of an audience. She wanted everyone to see me small. So I decided I'd take that same stage, but I'd use it against her. First, I needed evidence. Samantha had built a reputation in the family as difficult, but never outright malicious. If I told them she hid my letter, they might think it was just sibling rivalry blown out of proportion. So I started collecting. I snapped a photo of the Greenridge University envelope where I'd found it, still crumpled with her jewelry box sitting beside it. I tucked the real letter safely into my backpack, away from her reach. I started saving little moments, overhearing her brag to a friend about how Naomi will never make it out of this town, catching her swiping mail before Mom could see it. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to build a story that couldn't be denied once it was laid out in the open. The hardest part wasn't the plan itself. It was controlling my emotions. Every time she smirked at me across the dinner table, every time she brushed past me with that smug air of victory, I wanted to scream, to throw the letter in her face. But that wouldn't work. She'd twist it, make me look dramatic. So I practiced. In the mirror, I rehearsed what I'd say. Calm, precise, devastating. I practiced holding up the letter, sliding it across the table, looking her straight in the eye. The image became my fuel. One afternoon, I left my acceptance folder on the counter while I pretended to be busy in the living room. Sure enough, Samantha crept in, glancing around before lifting the flap. She froze when she saw me watching. "What are you doing?" I asked evenly. She smirked, shrugging. "Just curious." I smiled back, steady. "Don't worry. You won't be curious much longer." For the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes, doubt. My opportunity came a week later. Mom decided to host a family dinner, inviting uncles, aunts, cousins, the whole Parker clan. It was the kind of night Samantha loved. A crowd to play to, an audience for her little performances. As soon as I heard the plan, I knew this was it. This was the night. I packed the acceptance letter into a folder, along with the photos I'd taken on my phone. I slipped it into my bag, my heart racing but steady. When the evening arrived, the house filled with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the warm smell of pot roast and bread rolls. Samantha floated around like a hostess, cracking jokes, tossing her hair, painting herself as the star. I sat quietly at the table, waiting. Because tonight, I wasn't the quiet little sister. Tonight I was the one holding the truth. As dessert was served, Samantha leaned across the table with a sly grin. "So, Naomi," she said loudly, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Any news from those fancy colleges of yours? Or should we all stop holding our breath?" The family chuckled. My chest tightened, not with fear but with anticipation. Because this was the moment I'd been waiting for. I slid my hand into my bag, my fingers brushing against the folder. And I smiled. "Real quick, subscribe and share your thoughts below before we get to the part that still makes my heart race." The room buzzed with chatter, forks clinking against dessert plates. Candlelight flickered against the walls, and for a moment it almost felt like any other family dinner. Almost. Then Samantha leaned back in her chair, eyes glinting, and raised her voice just loud enough to hush the room. "So, Naomi," she said sweetly, "any updates on those colleges you're always talking about? Or should we all stop holding our breath?" Polite chuckles circled the table. My aunt smiled awkwardly. My uncle glanced at his glass. The familiar sting pricked at my chest, but this time I didn't flinch. This time I was ready. I set my fork down gently, letting the silence linger just long enough for people to shift uncomfortably. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out the thick folder, placing it in the center of the table. "Actually," I said calmly, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "I do have news. And since Samantha brought it up, it's probably time you all knew the truth." The table quieted instantly. Samantha's smirk faltered, her eyes darting to the folder. I opened it slowly, sliding out the envelope with Greenridge University's crest shining in the light. Gasps rippled through the room. "This," I said, holding it up, "is my acceptance letter. Greenridge University. The school I've dreamed of since I was 15. And I would have shared it with you weeks ago, if Samantha hadn't stolen it and hidden it in her room." The air seemed to vanish from the room. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. "What?" Mom whispered. Dad frowned, his face paling. "Samantha, is that true?" All eyes swung to her. Samantha laughed, the sound sharp and brittle. "She's making things up. Why would I hide her mail?" I slid my phone across the table, screen lit with the photo of the letter crumpled under her jewelry box. "Because I found it here." The room erupted with murmurs. My cousins leaned in. My aunt shook her head in disbelief. And for the first time in my life, the spotlight wasn't on me. It was on her. Her face flushed crimson. "You don't understand," she blurted. "I was protecting her. College is hard. She's not ready." "Not ready," I said, my voice rising. "Or not willing to leave you behind." The words hung heavy in the air. Her lips trembled, but the anger returned quickly. "You think you're better than me. You think just because you got into some fancy school, you can waltz out of here and leave me to rot. I did what I had to do to keep you grounded." Gasps echoed around the table. Mom covered her mouth. Dad's eyes hardened. I stood, my voice firm. "You didn't keep me grounded, Samantha. You tried to bury me. You took my future and shoved it in a drawer because you were too afraid of facing your own failures. That's not love. That's sabotage." The room fell silent. My father leaned forward, his voice shaking with controlled anger. "Is this true?" Samantha sputtered, her defenses collapsing. I just. But no one came to her rescue. Not this time. For once, the family saw her clearly. And they saw me, not as the quiet little sister, but as someone who had fought for her own voice. The rest of the evening was strained, the air thick with discomfort. My parents apologized to me in hushed voices, their disappointment with Samantha clear in every glance. Samantha stormed upstairs halfway through dessert, slamming her door so hard the walls rattled. I stayed seated, my acceptance letter still in front of me, my hand steady for the first time in weeks. Driving home that night, the letter safe in my bag, I felt something I hadn't in years. Freedom. For so long Samantha had defined me in the family. The quieter one, the shadow, the girl with potential but no backbone. And for so long I let her. But not anymore. She had hidden my future in a drawer. I had pulled it into the light for everyone to see. And in doing so I proved something to her, to my family, to myself. Her fear didn't define me. Her jealousy didn't own me. And her control ended the moment I stood up and told the truth. My sister thought she could control me, keep me small, and stop me from leaving by hiding my future in a drawer. But when I revealed the truth, the lies collapsed around her, and she was the one left exposed. If you've ever felt underestimated, silenced, or betrayed by the people closest to you, subscribe now. Because these stories aren't just about revenge, they're about taking back your voice.